For the latest news covering the entire tabletop role-playing industry, turn to Role Players Chronicle at roleplayerschronicle.com.
This is Ross Baden with Role Playing Public Radio, where this is RPPR episode 76, GM with 1,000 plot hooks. And with me, as always, is Tom Church and special guest Thad.
That sounds like you had to force that out of your mouth. That title.
Yeah.
It was like it's kind of like. And now we have.
Do you need like a lozenge or something?
It's like molasses.
Probably.
That was like molasses coming out of your mouth.
Yes, Tom. Thank you so much.
Because that happens all the time.
I know.
Molasses comes out of his mouth.
I've always wondered about that.
Yes. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about campaign structure, just sort of reflections on the campaigns we've been running here at RPPR versus the ones we want to run in the future. And of course, we're going to have Thad here as a guest because he hasn't been on the main podcast before, but I know he's a fan favorite for a lot of people. And we wanted to get his input on some stuff before he goes off to China, which is the news. So.
The hell with you people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm leaving the country, so it was nice talking to you guys.
Yeah.
And then once the actual plays catch up in a year when I get back, then, you know.
Yeah. So you're going off to teach English in Chengdu, China for a year?
Qingdao or however it's said.
Qingdao,
probably. That's how I keep hearing people say
that is the place where Tsingtao beer is made. That was the old romanization of that place. So there's a lot of breweries there.
That's what people keep telling me, which is great because that means they're sending someone who doesn't drink to a beer city, which is...
So
I find just great. Yeah. Suck it, people who would rather be there.
Well, it's supposed to be a great place.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty psyched.
Yeah. So we will...
I don't drink.
Yes. So we are going to... so in other news, we're going to be at Gen Con in a few weeks. That's a little under 3 weeks from now. And we'll do a pre-Gen Con episode as we usually do, but... this time, I just want to give you guys the RPPR meetup. For those of you who are going to actually be at Gen Con, will be on the Thursday of Gen Con, 6 p.m. at the Embassy Suites, and we're going to be playing Killsplosion. So if you want your own Killsplosion character, go ahead and bring it. I will make pre-gens for everyone, for up to a dozen players. I have some ideas for how to manage that many players.
You'll have to kill them all.
Yes, and we'll see how well that works out. So there's a lot of games there, and it will be pretty exciting. So
my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about campaign structure, and as Caleb right now is finishing up No Evil, and of course you guys won't be listening to that for a while now because we're a little behind. I've been thinking about the structure.
Little, that's rich.
A little, yeah.
In true RPPR fashion, we casket age all of the episodes for years on end before releasing them in public.
By the time we finish it, the fall will have happened.
That's a good possibility. But thinking about like how Caleb structured his campaign and how I've structured the two primary campaigns that I've run, which is the New World D&D campaign and the Heroes of New Arcadia, the Wild Talents campaign, the superhero campaign. It's interesting to think about like how we did that and how you can structure a campaign and sort of think about what to do, like what in terms of the central dramatic question. And by that, I mean, what is the main campaign about? And to use a comparison, I mean, you can't compare campaigns to movies because movies are pretty like specific, but you can compare them, I think, to a TV series, like a long-running TV series, a drama series. So like in Twin Peaks, the central dramatic question is, who killed Laura Palmer? That's a pretty specific one.
But they would like to know that.
It's great. It's a great question.
Yeah. But as opposed to another example would be another mystery show would be The X-Files. And that question is a little more nebulous, but it's, what is the truth behind the alien conspiracy theory,
And also there are stretchy people and monsters and things.
Right.
And bees.
Bees.
And bees.
Yeah, covered in bees.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Bees.
So what is the difference between these and what does this mean for running a role-playing game? So when I was starting out with these campaigns, I wanted to do sandbox campaigns. I want to give players a lot of options, and sort of the dramatic question I think for both of them is like, how do you want to shape the world? How do you want to change it? Certainly, very much in the Heroes of New Arcadia towards the end, and so I don't know. When you guys run campaigns, what do you usually think of, or run a game, or how often am I with the dramatic questions? Or
well, actually, the central question most of the campaigns I have run is, this villain wants to do X, the players have to stop it.
Okay.
And the villain has this long distance plan set in motion, and the players encounter him in the early stages and work throughout the campaign to stop him.
Okay.
And the climax finally comes when that plan is just about to be put in motion.
Okay. So it's very, in terms of structure, I mean, that reminds me in a lot of ways of like, I wouldn't say Saturday morning cartoons, but like a lot of that sort of like young adult or children's heroic literature where it's it's a very reactive kind of thing. Like everything from like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Inspector Gadget to like, help me out. There's
next time, Gadget.
Right. There's the bad guy or superhero comics like Superman.
It's like Dr. Claude. You've been at this for like years, and it's always next time. It's really never going to happen.
I like to remain an optimist.
Like Primatine, dude. Like this, I might clear that up.
So, like in your campaign, like you specifically mentioned, Tom, that the PCs run into the villain early on.
Yeah.
That's
it's usually the villain in a weaker state than he's going to be.
Okay. Yeah. But like the villain has to survive, obviously. So you engineer it so that there's an encounter without the possibility of the PCs just taking him out.
Yes, and normally
old rug pull.
And I know actually, but I don't give them a way. I don't set them on the path. They choose the path they want to take them out.
But that's the question: how do you take them out? You know? So what kind of dilemmas do you like? How far you're willing to go, or whether or just the approach, whether you want to just fight him or trick him, or
essentially a lot of it is the things a lot of my players like to do is it's like actually gathering resources to them is one of the most fun things for them.
Okay,
essentially they like oh dude, was it like we have this villain, he's like there's no way we can stop him on our own. Like we're gonna need a team, dude.
Okay.
We're gonna need a team. We're gonna need resources. We're gonna need patrons to pay for it because that's just how we roll.
Right.
So that pretty much the most fun thing for them is convincing other more powerful people to not fight with them. Mm-hmm. It's never that. But to help them and support them.
Okay.
It's especially like my Gargoyles campaign, which is the longest campaign I've ever run, which went on for 3 years. It was. And I had canon characters to work with then, is really getting their help, not their help so they could fight, not getting them to fight for them.
Okay.
There's a very specific line drawn. And it's that the players would not appreciate if, like, hey, well, let's just get the canon big name characters in the show to fight our battle for us. They never wanted to do that.
The players did.
The players didn't.
So even if a canon character was in there that would logically want to fight, like someone who's just like a guy who just likes fighting, for example, you had to figure out some reason why he wouldn't fight in this particular battle.
Yeah, and actually the best thing I did was I love to engineer battles where it wasn't like there had to be two groups.
Yeah.
So there was always a way that, okay, like Goliath in the case of Gargoyles, he had to go fight over here to what I would say would be the slightly less important but more immediate problem. Right. You have to go fight this seemingly less important but turns out far more important battle over here.
Okay. All right, so that's an interesting. So Thad, what do you like? I know you. I don't. In fact, we don't know what your experience is. I mean, I know you mentioned a little bit about it.
My past is shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
I've run 2 games in my entire life because I had a couple of friends who would basically be the ones who would run games, and so like there'd be a filler night, and one of us would just throw something together. I ran a horror game that I literally just made up off the top of my head. And it was very much, hey, I just played Silent Hill for the first time. Let's make weird shit and alternate reality and screw up things.
Right.
And so that one was really just the good old-fashioned, why the hell is everything going bananas?
Right.
And then the other one I started when I first got Spirit of the Century. I tried to put like I was gonna try and put a campaign together with some friends, and I got to run one game of it, and then everyone moved to different states.
That's how much they hated
I don't
it.
think
Your
because
game
of,
caused that.
I don't think because of me, although 2 of them did move to Europe, so I don't know. And that one was much. I mean, that one was really just sort of. It was gonna be an episodic, like superhero comic type thing. Let's go on pulp adventures.
Adventure
So like
of the week. So.
Yeah, I've never really written like a campaign before. I've only ever done just sort of, well, we've got some people, let's throw questions and strangeness at them and have them either run away in horror as, blood-soaked nightmares shamble after them, or punch it with square-jawed justice.
Right.
So that's.
I mean, that's a good. I mean, that's a good point in that your campaign doesn't have to have like an overarching, like this is my master story or whatever. I mean, it can just be like, we're gonna get together and punch evil in the dick. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like
No. I would punch evil in the dick every day if I had the choice.
Well, who wouldn't? Well, because those guys, they're evil and
Yeah.
they need to be punched in the dick. So
It's actually a really easy way of ferreting out evil. Hey, would you punch evil in the dick? No?
yeah,
You were evil.
Oh!
that's a great filter for it. So, but I mean, trying to think about like in terms of like what's the most memorable games. What are your most memorable times in a role playing game? They tend to be like the things that build up. Like there's a lot of time and investment in this, and it just kind of works out that way. So, I mean, the question is, how do you get this from point A to point B? Like, how do you set this up in the beginning? Because I think for me, my challenge is not doing a sandbox campaign as the next thing I do, the next big campaign I do. Because I've done that twice now in very similar kind of genres. Like, Dungeons and Dragons is very much in the like heroic literature and is very close. The superhero genre is very much like that as well. So like they're both kind of like heroes that overcome great adversity and they solve great problems and they make everything happy ever after, more or less.
It's always building up from, you're the normal or perhaps even the street level guy,
Yeah. Oh, God.
and then you build
a ragtag band of misfits.
Yeah, and eventually, we're altering the fate of the world.
Yeah. So I want to do something different. I want to do something like instead
By the
of
way, that's exactly how my campaigns go.
Yeah.
The players always start as minor characters in whatever world I'm in.
Yeah.
And they slowly rise to some of the most powerful people in the world.
The character rises.
Bane, for those of you who have not watched The Dark Knight Rises.
I'm working on my Bane voice. Shut up.
I'm just clarifying it.
He's going to use it for teaching purposes.
I don't know.
Yes. That'll really help students in China understand me.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure it will.
It's like
enunciation.
So the central dilemma is, for me, like, how do I avoid doing that kind of thing? Because like, there's nothing wrong with having a great rise, like going from rags to rags to supreme badass of the universe, from Super Saiyan or whatever.
From wooden sword to like Bunkai bleach giant powerful
Massimium,
The big Goron sword.
Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but like,
sword.
I want to do something different because if you look at like some of the best TV series, some of the best episode, like long narrative arc stories out there, they're very much more focused on like character studies, or they're very much focused on how people survive in a world that they can't change. And that's sort of the reality of the universe, is that you might be able to change something, but you're not going to change everything.
See, I think that's your problem, Ross. You're just too optimistic about individuals' power to affect anything. You need to just give up. Realize that they just have to live their daily lives ground to death by the unfeeling universe.
You haven't even been to China yet. Why are you all ground up and disappointed yet? Like, you don't even know.
I'm disappointed in everything. I just start there.
I see how it is.
It's a much shorter journey.
I mean, like, I just started watching that, and don't spoil it for me because I've only watched a couple episodes so far of Breaking Bad, and that's very much.
I've seen like one episode.
Yeah, it's very much. Well, I'm more of the listeners out there who will probably have like a huge discussion.
Oh yeah. Well, I realized that I'm a terrible person for only having seen one episode.
Yeah, but like, it's very
I've
much a
seen
character
two.
study. It's about like how this chemist, this high school teacher, starts cooking meth and starts like getting people killed, like that's in the first episode, so that's not really a spoiler. So and that the whole series follows him and how he changes, and like how would you do that in a role playing game? Would you want to do that? Not necessarily like a negative arc where you go from average to fucking the pits of hell, but that could be. I don't know.
I don't know. There's one of the main things that pops into my head for that is you really need to trust your players not to just derail things and make things insane. Because I mean, if they're character focused things,
yeah,
and you have like a player who just like constantly wants to make it all about them and like derails other people's plots and things, I feel like that could be a dangerous
if you have a bad player, you have a bad player.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you can really do.
But I mean, I think like in that situation though, if you're making it a smaller sort of, these characters against the world story, I think the bad player problem would come to the limelight faster, I guess.
Well, it's not even like characters versus the world, because that still kind of implies a certain thing. Like, I mean, Breaking Bad, it's not the character versus the world. I mean, the world exists.
It is. He just can't win.
Well, I mean, he's just like, I'm going to go into this new world. I'm a fish out of water, and I'm going to do this because I need the money, and I need it now. And he's basically got some anger issues, if you think about it. I mean, he really does. Like, a normal person doesn't decide, like, I'm going to, lung cancer? Well, fuck it. I'm going to, like, go.
Oh, just because you don't solve all problems with cooking meth means that's abnormal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or the other thing, like, again, going back to Twin Peaks, I mean, there's this central mystery. Everyone's consumed with it. There's so much drama about it, but solving that mystery isn't going to fundamentally change everything. It's not even going to, like, it might not even change Twin Peaks itself. I mean, it's not like the town's going to burn to the ground or become a utopia if that murder is solved, It's just like, oh, yeah, some people will go to jail. Some people will be, have some closure, but that's it, So the question's more like, what do you want to do? Like, what is the focus of your campaign? Like, do you want to just focus on very, very inwardly focused, Breaking Bad? Do you want to have this one mystery that's still very complex and difficult, or not, but solving it isn't going to change everything? Or do you want something like Tom, there's a mystery and solving it will change everything, because if you don't, the world will be ruined. If you do it, the world will be saved, right? I mean, those are the stakes in your kind of games, right? It's not like, it's X-Files, not Twin Peaks.
Normally, like the group I play with that stuff, they kind of like to change the world.
Right.
That's kind of their thing. I've done some shorter stuff where it's more just a campaign. Literally, I had a cross country campaign. Is literally take a package from San Francisco to New York, and it was a Ninjas and Super Spies game.
Yeah,
if you remember that from Palladium, and all that was simply they go around and every town they stopped by, someone was trying to steal it from them.
Right,
and by the time they got it there, they hadn't really changed. Just
right.
We've now crossed the country. We've killed several dozen people. I handed off a briefcase, and that's it. That's all we've done. I've tried a few of those, but those are usually much shorter.
Okay.
The long-term stuff, like the years-long stuff, starts. Yeah, they're just residents. Like in the Gargoyles game, they started as like this residents of this mountaintop village in Romania.
Right.
And by the time they were done, they were dealing with hell, heaven.
Right. I mean, there are shows like that as well. Like Lost, I think, is the best example, because it first starts out, you're on an island, your plane crashed. How do you survive? How do you get off the island? And of course, there are immediate mysteries to figure out. There's the number station that's broadcasting. The guy could walk. What is going on? What's the smoke monster or whatever? What's that thing in the distance? But as the season progresses, like as the show progresses, those mysteries get unsolved. New mysteries with broader implications. Like, oh, this is the radio station broadcasting those numbers. But hey, it's been around for decades. There's obviously some sort of civilization on this island, because there's fucking radio stations and power sources, and what the hell's going on? So it goes on and on and on and on until it becomes literally the fate of the world. Like, if this cosmic force isn't, protected, shit's going to get really bad,
Whee!
Yeah. So whether or not you hate the ending, I mean, that's kind of like the sort of progression, going from very small stakes I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, it's a basic storytelling thing. Like, raise the stakes. You have to make things matter. But like, what matters? I mean, like, again, for another example, would be like Battlestar Galactica versus Firefly, and both of those stakes, are very important for the people.
Humanity rests in the balance in Battlestar Galactica.
And
every day
in a very real way.
Yeah, in a very real way. And so there's a lot of tension and a lot of like conflict in there, but does that mean that the conflict of Firefly is less important? I mean, do we not care about that? We still care about those. The crew.
Well, their focus is get cargo, keep flying.
Well, and it's also about their ideals too. Like they have to be true to themselves. They can't like
remain free. Damn the man.
Right, and they're basically a surrogate family too. They have to protect one another. So.
I guess one of the sort of floating questions that comes up to me, if you're trying to run a game that's less about the fate of the world and all that, is dealing with how characters progress sort of in a mechanical way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, power creep will happen, and then suddenly you have people who aren't really deciding the fate of the world, but depending on which system you're playing, after a few months, they can punch holes through buildings or whatever.
I mean, that's very dependent on system.
Yeah.
Like in Dungeons and Dragons, that's very.
It would be. I feel like it would be very hard to run.
Like you go from being a normal human to basically being a
demigod.
A demigod because
you kill enough goblins, and it doesn't matter whether or not you didn't mean to be an immortal hero. You are one now.
You're just nearly unkillable. You can stop.
I didn't
armies
ask
on your
for
own.
this.
So you can't that would be really weird if you're running like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. You're like, hey, you're in this little village, and like you're protecting it, or you're like going out and
just
doing
a campaign
that,
like Seven Samurai. Protect these people forever.
Or like, yeah, you all grew up in this village and that's your base, and so every adventure you come back to this one village, and so like at first like, oh, so you have subquests, like in the beginning it's like, oh, find the missing cow, like all right, goblin stole the fucking cow, like all right, fine, and so like the GM's still trying to do the same kind of thing like 10 levels later, and so like, oh, hey, you need to find some herbs so Mrs. Smith can get like make her awesome stew, like
her spice rack.
I summon a djinn to find all the herbs.
I reach my mind out into the ethereal plane and understand all. It's over there. That's where it is.
Actually, I hate to say it. There's one game system that I've actually done a campaign like that, which stayed local and the stakes stayed the same. It was Rifts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And somewhere Caleb screams for no reason.
Okay, well, it's Rifts. The GM actually did it. I mean, this was like this was like a 10-session game, so I think 10 still counts as a
That's
campaign.
a campaign.
Yeah.
Trust me. Yeah,
the thing is, though, he said he said no RCCs, which means like no
racial character classes.
Right, we said, but you can play DBs, but you have to choose an OCC. And
right.
all the DBs had to be like just normal DBs.
Right.
So we were all like members of this outpost town.
Right.
And we all started at level 1, so we were basically just, junior militia guys.
Right.
And the threats we faced were basically other low-level guys with the same basic kind of stuff we had. And we got up to level 9. He didn't really give experience, just kind of levels as each game did. But the thing is, the threats jumped with us, but were still basically threats that were just threatening this town.
Right.
And we gained in levels and knowledge and experience, but not really power. Because we were OCCs.
Right.
What changed was our combat skill, our number of attacks, and the dumbass Palladium way.
Well, that's a good point. But that's kind of like the same thing we've done. We talked about this in an earlier episode. Building Bildungsroman, the character growth.
Bildungsroman.
Yeah, Bildungsroman. And that's like there are systems where characters are very static and they don't grow very much, and you just said that. And and then there are systems where characters are very dynamic and they grow a fuckload between the beginning and end of a
Well, the thing is, we were still much stronger than we were before.
Really?
Yeah, really. Because
you don't really, aside from like a couple bonuses, you really are basically the same character level 1. Unless you got really good gear. Did he started throwing out rune swords or
we captured enemy gear, and
right.
We also one of the missions was someone we had a choice. Basically, we could either focus on building up some makeshift defenses for an attack from a band. This was bandits, but the thing is, it was actually part of the overall story, so it made sense.
Right.
Or we could risk going to find this rumored old pre-Rifts military base that had equipment.
Yeah.
And so we chose the latter because, there's some personal glory in there.
You're right.
And the thing is, it paid off, and we actually did walk away with much more power, like gears from almost all the gear we used at first was all from the main book.
Right.
It's like only then did he start breaking out all the stuff from other books.
Right. Well, that's unique to the system, though, and it's that the Rift system is very much like there's a power creep through the book. So like that wasn't even character growth per se. You just got
know
better
so
shit.
much about Rifts.
I know so
just
much
off
about
the
Rift.
top of your head.
I know,
dude.
I know.
I played it all the way through high school and after.
It's like you smoke or you drink for a long time. The damage is there. Like you can quit, but the scars are still there. It is what it is. So, but that's the thing. It was gear. It's external to your characters. Your characters didn't grow per se. You just got better shit. So,
Well, the thing is, what does change is the attacks per round. That's the big thing.
Well,
it really is, dude. It's amazing how much you go up against a guy with 2 attacks and you have 4.
Yeah.
You are way more powerful than he is just by that alone.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're all wearing armor. He can take 2 shots at you. If you take 4 shots at him, you're much more likely to drop him before he drops you.
But your power relative to this setting, though, I think that's the key. And your power didn't because you weren't using the crazy RCCs or anything, you weren't overpowered for the thing. The thing was in D&D, which I think is unique to D&D, is that a character is say a farm boy. He's a level 1 wizard though, or sorcerer or whatever. He starts out, I can do a couple spells. I can kill that goblin stealing those chickens. That's it, By level 10 though, he's like, oh, well, fuck it. There's goblins stealing chickens. I'm going to build a fucking golem and just have it kill every goblin in the valley. Fuck it. I'm going home. That's the thing. I'm just going to fly up 400 feet in the air, invisible, and drop fireballs above them so that they can't even see me. And then I'll summon some invisible stalkers to finish up the rest.
He invents carpet bombing as a way of dealing with the problem.
On a magic carpet, because that's what he found.
Magic carpet ride.
Yeah. So that's almost unique to D&D in a sense. The character growth in terms of power just grows so much. But yet again, that's a good point. But in most campaigns, you have the central question doesn't change because of your character ability, and I think most systems have pretty slow character growth. I don't think nothing. D&D really does have the fastest character growth that I think about. Out of all the popular systems, unless you're being a real munchkin with World of Darkness.
Mutants and Masterminds is pretty slow.
You're not getting many points.
Phase is slow,
right? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. In Call of Cthulhu, you only get a couple of bonus points on skills.
Cthulhu, you die.
Call of Cthulhu, all characters advance slow.
Yeah, because all you do is improve your skills. You can't improve your attributes. They are releasing a new edition of Call of Cthulhu actually next year, 7th edition. You're going to be making a lot of changes to it that look pretty baller, but that's a whole different thing, and we'll talk about that later.
Whole different bag of insanity, draining horror.
We'll put a link to it, maybe. It's on the internet. Just look it up. Jesus, why are we here? So back to the central question: how do you? What is the best type? Is the best type of campaign? I'm going to try something different now, and I think Caleb is going to, for his next campaign, whatever that's going to be. He hasn't decided yet. But the question is, even if you become a badass, what's the dramatic question? What are you going to do? And there is a danger, though. Let's say you want to do a character-based thing where, it's finding a mystery, but it's who killed Laura Palmer, not what is the U.S. government conspiracy about UFOs, which, if revealed and made public, would change everything. So, if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to do who killed Laura Palmer, but your guys keep getting more and more badass, and in order to keep the campaign interesting, you have to keep raising the stakes. How do you keep that from not becoming some cosmic thing? I think that's a big challenge. Is having narrative power creep in your own campaign. Players, that's the whole thing. Player characters can become more and more powerful, but what does the game master have to do? Just well, fine. They're at the first time it's a few thugs fighting you, but by 10 sessions in, it's we got to have psychic ninjas attacking you guys.
Because eventually there will be no tension if it's just
another
guy with a gun is attacking you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is exactly why you wouldn't use D&D for a game like that. It's system. if you're playing D&D, you're not going to do a Who Killed Laura Palmer thing.
No, you could. I mean, if it's Ravenloft,
but yeah, you'd have to work at it. You'd really have to work at it.
Sure.
Other games like Call of Cthulhu, you wouldn't have to. If you were just, never mind the supernatural horror,
right?
You wouldn't have to do that.
But independent of system, how do you get it to where like you don't want to keep making it more and more tense? Like even in No Evil, like just for talking about the Venus and Moon tier. Like in Venus tier, we were facing goons with guns, like the Night Cartel, first session. Then Caleb started escalating threats pretty quickly. Like we got on Thought, or not even on Thought, Cloud 9. We were facing 2 armed factions that were trying to kill each other. And now we're in Lunatier, we're about to rob a space bank.
Woo!
And like shit is just insane.
Actually, I was in a campaign where I think there's a good way if you're wanting to keep it, lower key, but still have many sessions. Decrease the time that passes in game.
Really?
Yeah, I would think. Okay, in a game like that, if you want a game that's all like still using Twin Peaks, like a long campaign, then have each session be the next day, rather than weeks pass or months pass, which we've mostly done in Eclipse Phase or a lot of the other games.
Eclipse Phase seems to have been gone over pretty quick.
But still,
time.
but I think if you make if you make each session like the next day, it's not going to make a lot of sense to cash in a buttload of experience for something that just happened the day before.
Right. Well,
I think if you make the lapse time smaller is a good way to do that.
I mean, I could see that because then it doesn't. It would stretch credulity if you had psychic ninjas showing up a week after a couple FBI guys come in to investigate a murder,
exactly.
for example. But like on the other hand, that creates new problems. That is, what if one of the FBI guy gets shot in the leg and can't walk? Like, is he just going to like make a new
for the rest of the game?
Well, he's going to be in the hospital for a couple of weeks at least. I mean, because he's been shot, So, like, if you're doing, and most systems like Call of Cthulhu actually have like, you need fucking weeks of bed rest to heal from that shit. I mean, I know in the one shots, I'm pretty like much of a horrible monster about that. Like,
yes,
yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. First aid check? Sure, you can heal 5 points from that gut shot. Why not? You bandaged that up good.
Somehow it managed to miss every vital organ.
Yeah. So, I think...
Well, it's an idea, but yes, every possible idea has new problems.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is... like, you can have the same stakes, but you have to be aware of what you're putting in the campaign. Like, everything you put... Like, if it's like an aquarium, everything you put in there, you have to think, like, each new food or fish you put in, changes everything else in the entire tank, the entire aquarium. So you have to think about how, like, if you add one element... a lot of GMs just think of something up and like, oh, bam, we're going to throw that in, And in some things that works, like D&D is explicitly made so like shit just doesn't have to make sense. Like there's a panther, but it has tentacles on its back and
it can teleport.
And no, it doesn't teleport. It's like it has an illusion, so it looks 2 feet to the left.
Oh.
Yeah, so like, and
it looks like it teleports.
Bear plus owl, go. Like there you go. Like
Owl bear.
Yeah, exactly. That's
brilliant.
It is explicitly made so like you can just throw it in whatever you want and not have to worry about how it's going to affect everything else. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons.
If you
why.
think about it, people jumping into a D&D campaign aren't going to give a shit who killed Laura Palmer.
Well, no, like okay,
they're not, dude.
Here, let me do who killed Twin Peaks in D&D.
Who killed Twin Peaks?
Yes. Well, it's in Ravenloft because it's horror. Or, we'll do it as mystery horror, and the idea is the players get sucked up into the mists, and they come to this village, and they find a wizard or sorceress, Laura Palmer, basically, who says, "Yeah, I can send you right home." All right. Bam, dead the next morning. And like but part of her has been stolen, or her soul has been stolen, and you cannot resurrect her until you find her soul, and that's in a gym somewhere or something like that. So you have to find who killed her, get her soul back to resurrect her to go home. Otherwise you're stuck in fucking hell in Ravenloft, which fucking sucks.
But it's D&D, but you have to use a specific, setting to do that.
Well, I mean Ravenloft is an iconic setting, so I'm not going to make up a whole world for that. Okay, so you want like who killed Laura Palmer in generic D&D world?
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, start at level 1. The PCs are standard adventurers. They come there and, or actually they're hired to find out who killed Laura Palmer. That's the initial quest. And then they find out.
They're also looking for a really good cherry pie and a cup of black coffee.
Right. And you do it with slow progression. There actually are rule variants to lower power in D&D to like make character.
We're just going normal D&D, no house rules here.
Well, okay, no house. All right, so no standard house rules. And the basic idea is if you, how about that one? They can just be compelled to do it. Like they're gayest quest spells that say if you don't finish this, you're going to be cursed forever. 2, they can make swear an oath to have to swear it to follow up.
Swear to me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's in a medieval city, and they have to. Or you'd be like an Eberron campaign, which is like meant to be more pulpy. They have to find out who killed them because Laura Palmer. Same basic premise. Her soul's been stolen, so you can't resurrect her until she is her soul stone is found. Which that is a standard spell in D&D, Magic Jar. So she's important to someone. She's someone's wife, someone's daughter that's rich.
She is the official MacGuffin of that campaign.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, and start at level 1 and then just have
As I said, you pretty much just answered the point I was thinking about trying to make there is it can be done. You just have to really think it through.
Yeah. Well, mystery campaigns are hard to do anyway. I mean, like it's harder to set up.
Well, I think I don't know. One of the things that sort of strikes me is a lot of the solutions to this come down to just the GM's control and planning and sort of thinking about.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's all about framing in the initial setup.
I mean, a lot of the systems they're set up to just build up and get bigger and better. So it's if you can use D&D, but I mean it depends on what you decide to do with it.
And make sure your players want to do the kind of thing you're thinking of.
Right.
If you tell them, hey, I got a D&D campaign. Honestly, the first thing I'm thinking of is basically, all right, it's like all right, level badasses. But if you start doing that,
there'll be like 3 players who the first day they're already planning how they're going to make their character when it gets to level 15. And
yeah, I mean that for D&D, sure.
So it's really make sure they're into it first.
Right. But how would you say what I already told Caleb, for me, I'm planning to do an Eclipse phase campaign at some point with the new book Rimward, which we'll talk about in the shoutouts phase, which just came out
on the internet.
Yes. I don't know when the port's coming out because I'm looking forward to that. And I already know the basic setup. The basic setup I already told the players, so I'll just tell everybody here. Woo! For my Eclipse phase campaign, it's going to start out on an exoplanet, which is, from the fog gate, the Pandora gate /
It's the fog gate.
Yeah.
Nothing like that movie.
A hypercorp-controlled exoplanet that's been colonized, but because of the hypercorp overseer is so incompetent and such a tyrant that there's a rebellion going on because the anarchists find there's another Pandora gate that is discovered on the planet that leads to the anarchist collective, and so they hey, let's have a proxy war between the hypercorps and us, so let's take this planet over. So the rebellion's in full swing, so all the PCs wake up in new bodies and they're given guns and told to go suppress a riot because you're all indentures, you're all hired by the Hypercorp to put down a riot, and that's where it starts on the exoplanet. And from there, it can go any number of directions, however the players want to go. And I have a central, for me, the central dilemma, the central dramatic question isn't going to be saving the planet or not, or determining its fate. That's secondary. The real question is going to be, how do you get home? The idea is each of your characters, for whatever reason, you can't be someone who has a family and a love place and a place in this world because you woke up in a Hypercorp indentured program. You can't be someone that has a place in this world because they only get egos that are outside of the society. You're someone who's
so none of the characters are going to be going, "Where's my family?"
Well, they could be, but they don't know where their family is. Their family don't all have jobs on Mars. It's not like you oh shit, I need to get home. You don't have a home. So that's the whole dramatic question is where do you find what is your place in this world? What is your place in Eclipse phase? So that's going to be the dramatic question for that. And so there's going to be all kinds of Eclipse phase shit, but it's not going to be in No Evil. I mean, it could be in No Evil in the sense that you could, if the players really wanted to, they could determine the fate of this exoplanet. They would really have to commit to that. So I don't know. What do you when I say that, what do you think, Tom? Since you're going to be playing this for the concept, well, because you're you're going to China, you're going to not space China.
I'm going to Earth China, sucker.
Yeah. So, Tom.
Well, the first thing I want to do is obviously think of a character I would want to play for many sessions.
Right.
And I've run in games, I've been in games. There's very, very few things that suck more than, especially if you're running a campaign where one player keeps changing characters because he gets tired of them.
That's a good point, especially if you're trying to do a character-based game, and then like, oh, I got this awesome plot hook for your assassin or your wizard, and then it's like, no, I hate him. I'm gonna be barbarian. Me and barbarian now. I'm illiterate too. Yeah.
So the first thing I would do, I would really think about what I would want to play, and not just who.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between what do I want to play and who do I want to play.
Yeah.
What do you want to play is a much simpler thing than who.
I mean, that's mechanical.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. I mean, you can like people tend to think like what you play is who you play, and that's not true because you can. I mean, like for example, in D&D, people always talk about paladins being like, what's a stereotypical paladin?
Aaron.
Well,
A crusader.
a crusader, humorless, fanatic,
Droll.
well, not even droll, just like humorless. I mean, just like not even like I am the
I'm on a mission from God.
Yeah, basically, I am the humorless zealot who's just going to do things by
And
the
I'm
book.
always right.
And I'm always right, self-righteous, arrogant.
Oh, okay. Well, not Aaron. I was just thinking, good guy. It's got to be Aaron.
Yeah. But you could play, why couldn't you play a droll, wisecracking, sarcastic, laid-back paladin?
The snarky paladin.
Yeah, a Joss Whedon paladin.
The late 80s, early 90s cartoon lead paladin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Leonardo as a paladin, from TMNT. So something like that. So why couldn't paladins, even though they have all these powers and codes of conduct, why can't they have differing personalities? I mean, how many of you watched, movies or stories about guys or people who are all basically the same class or job or whatever, but they all have varying different personalities. So I mean,
I had a game where someone was playing a paladin who gave mindless monsters, but monstrous races the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
When they encountered them. Someone said, the minute a minotaur attacked our village, and they finally track it down, he actually tried to find out if that's really what happened. And not just, I see big bag of resources and XP, and I'm going to break my piñata open. My XP piñata. I must break it.
Nice. I will hit this thing until knowledge and experience come out.
I can speak Spanish.
I will bathe in it.
Yeah. And it was one of the most amazing things ever. Like, oh my God, you're actually making sure you're punishing the right people. I mean, he still would smite any evildoer without a second thought, but he makes sure they're the right evildoer.
Yeah, that is a very
complexity.
Yeah, complexity. So
3-dimensional.
You want to have the right character. So yeah, one of the problems is.
So basically, the first thing I would do. Yes, first I would think of what I want to play.
Yeah,
that's the first thing I'm going to do. Is do I want to be a genetic scientist, a soldier, or whatever?
Yeah.
Then my next goal after that is to make that what into a who. Mm-hmm. Is okay. I'm playing it. I have a soldier. Who is this person? And I actually answer. I have a checklist of a bunch of questions I'd like to ask my character.
Yeah. That
I start to, especially for a campaign. If it's a one shot, I don't give a shit. But,
right.
But Preston, I really thought about him.
Really?
I really did. I mean, I knew it was going to be an octomorph. That's pretty much my what is. He's an octomorph wise ass. Then I start. Okay, now who is Preston Crowley? And that's where all that came. And that's why I wouldn't even dream of changing characters.
Right.
For no evil.
Right. So what were some of the questions you asked Preston, basically?
Well, basically, he's an uplift. How does he feel about that? Does he resent being, basically biological and intellectual property of a corporation, or is he pretty much used to that? Or does he even enjoy it? Who made him? Does he consider his father as, okay, is he just like the guy who spliced my genes together, or is he really dad? And does he do all these antics because he's truly not afraid of dying for real, or is it all about ratings? I actually had a thing. Is it just about his show, or is he really trying to just live life? All that kind of stuff.
That's very good. Thad, what about you for Fei-In? Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, for just coming up with Fei-In, it started with, what sort of things really interest me about the world and the things that I can do when I'm making the character, and the, like, forking and that sort of stuff sort of popped out at me early on, and that's why I wanted, I guess right now we're actually coming up on the bank heist where all that sort of starts coming to a head for her.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, what you have to deal with if you're a fork dealing with, stuff that you technically didn't actually ever do. The life complications when there can be more than one of you, why somebody would fork themselves and all those sorts of things.
So was it like, Tom, you thought about mechanically what you wanted to do first, or was it?
Yeah, it's really for both of us, I think. Sounds like just...
Well, okay, for Eclipse Phase, the first thing is really what morph do I want? That was really the first thing I thought of.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with thinking that as long as you build upon it. So then, okay, and then once I discern, well, that was a quick one. Like, okay, octomorph. What about, like, okay, now what do I want my profession to be? Then when I get that stuff down, it's pretty much like the most important shit, and then break it down.
Okay. So any differences for you, Thad?
I don't know. A lot of it just came down to after reading through the first book, just finding what like I said, the forking really interested me, and as far as settings go, I liked the world of Luna and just the different stuff going on there. And also, I think when I made Faye, I had been reading Neuromancer, so I had like a really sort of cyberpunk-ish kind of backstory anyway.
A little bit of Cowboy Bebop, too.
Yeah, a little bit of that. That wasn't intentional. Like, I just looked up Chinese names. I was like, okay, there are a lot of Chinese people on the moon. Let's find a name. There we go. And then the instant I said it, it's like, oh, right, of course. It's one of my favorite shows ever. I'm an idiot.
Subconsciously, it's like, yes, you shall do Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I actually Preston Crowley was a name I thought of in two parts.
Right.
Like, I wanted kind of almost like a preppy-ish first name.
Yeah.
But then I also wanted kind of a name that would denote someone who is not readily accepted, and Aleister Crowley certainly fit that bill.
Yeah, true.
So I kind of thought Preston Crowley sounded interesting. Kind of like, because he is basically from the corporate society. I still have like an 80 in network hypercorps.
Right.
So I
wouldn't recommend using it.
No, but I was born into the hypercorp. I may not be a hypercorp myself, but I was born into that world.
Right.
You never asked for it though.
No, I never asked for it.
All right, fair enough. It's interesting. I was thinking about actually how I created Bartleby, and the first thing that was interesting for me that I realized that I wanted to do, partly because I thought it would be good for our team to have the balance, and also just I was interested in it myself, was the async rules. There's the psionic powers. So I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I looked at that, and then the async, there's only one group that's associated with the asyncs by default, the Lost. And so I thought, oh, well, that's interesting too. It got that whole battle royale kind of, fucked up beginning for all of them. So I decided to put that together. And then on a mechanical point of view, I decided I was going to make my character so where he was going to... I figured there were going to be people with multiple, like, the interfacing and infosec skills are going to be really common, so I figured I would pick the not those skills. So that's kind of why...
Let's see. What skills would I have if I grew up in a place where we murdered each other over and over?
Yeah. So, sneaking and weapons and that kind of thing. So, but, not hacking, because I figured everybody else was going to be a hacker and engineer type. So, just... because of the setting itself, so that was kind of important to me.
And also being a social character is not usually what I play.
No, that's
so I thought it'd be interesting to try one as an octomorph.
Yeah,
I'm the talker and liar of the group.
Yeah. And then from the Lost concept, I just figured why would this guy be with Firewall? And I figured the only reason why is if he was fanatically loyal to them. If he was just fucking,
it's part of his crazy.
Yeah, it's part of his crazy. That's the only way I could see him. Otherwise, he would just be like, "Fuck off!" I'm not going to help you. Or they wouldn't trust him. They wouldn't trust somebody like that unless he was really just there's no way he could not be with us. Yeah.
Actually, I didn't find the thing of why Preston would have joined Firewall.
Yeah.
What I finally came up with, just his original thought of, I've been alive for 6 months now, so I still don't know how shit works, but I'm going to write a book. Pretty much is, I'm going to be part of this super secret, spy agency that does stuff.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to write a book about it someday.
Yeah.
Then I get in like, oh wait, it's like only later. I can't write a book about this because they'll kill me.
There's no out.
Yeah.
There's no out.
Yeah, and it's probably better if I don't because oh my god, what are we doing? That's kind of so you have to think about your character when you're designing it for the campaign and make sure the GM knows about it. And I think Caleb's done an admirable job with it so far. But I think, he was. I was talking to him earlier. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think there is this kind of awareness that we were kind of like doing these epic cosmic things, and that's not. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the future, we'll try something different.
Yeah, I think really a lot of it just if you're wanting to do the more limited sort of not altering the universe type of game, a lot of it comes down to consensus between the player and the GM, right off. Because if you find out later that you're playing a game where you don't get to punch God in the jaw and say a one-liner, and you wanted to do that, that's,
Well, a lot of it isn't even up to the rules per se, but even say in an epic level D&D campaign, it's about what the GM says the consequences of your actions are. Like if you could have an epic level D&D game where all you do are go into dungeons, kill dragons, get their loot, come back to the
name
game.
check both the things from the title.
Exactly. Yeah,
nice.
So you do that, but nothing changes as a result of that. Like you kill the dragon, but the GM says, "All right, yeah, nothing's changed. You've killed the dragon. You've saved the kingdom." The end, and that's a D&D game because there's nothing in the rules saying if you kill a dragon, they give suggestions.
Social order just flips over.
Yeah, all the goblins rebel, all the kobolds under its control go to war or whatever. There's there's a power vacuum.
The means of
there's
production.
Nothing in the rules that specifically say you have to do that. It's what the GM decides are consequences of your actions or the actions that happen. So you could do that kind of game and just say no, that happens or that doesn't happen.
You're just power cock blocking them. Oh, you did something. Look at how much it changed.
Well, no, that's the thing. A lot of people like that. Again, if you want a dungeon crawling game, you don't necessarily want everything to change because if you do that, in millions of people play World of Warcraft, and fucking what does that matter?
Actually, that would be kind of a fun reversal though. They're playing just normal dungeon crawling things and just accidentally just flip over the social order.
Oh, sure,
and have
reversal
to deal with
of a common trope like that is always a fun idea for a game, but. It doesn't change the fundamental nature of that universe. So, it's just there. Yeah.
How about the game we played on Saturday?
Star Wars One Roll Engine. Yeah, we'll talk about that for the anecdote. But yeah,
but it's the same thing. I think we have a consensus. We don't want to change the galaxy.
I don't think we aren't. That's not even a possibility. Even if we wanted to, we're not going to because we're just going to argue for half the game session.
But I
can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah,
it's something. It's something. It really
we'll have that as part of the rant. Well, I'll talk about it more for the anecdote. So a lot of it again is up to the GM just deciding how this is going to impact the game world, how it's not going to impact the game world. And there are a lot of games, a lot of Call of Cthulhu games, the whole thing is you don't change anything. Because, you stop the evil.
The universe gives no fucks.
Yeah, the universe, you stop the evil in this abandoned farmhouse in New England. That's it.
Cthulhu still in
You've also
Riley.
learned that there are horrible evils out there.
Yeah, you stopped the murderer who was a monster. It melts away into nothing.
But Azathoth is still at the center of the universe.
Right.
Cthulhu still is sleeping beneath the ocean.
Right. But, Delta Green, a lot of these games, nothing changes as a result of it. There's a new game coming out called Knights Black Agents, which is a conspiracy game like Jason Bourne, but the idea is vampires might be controlling the conspiracy. You're some badass secret agent, you just find out you're the people controlling everything. And so the whole thing, there are rules for creating a conspiracy, from the bottom to top, a whole pyramid. And so the idea is in the game, you work your way up the pyramid. You go from the street level to the city to the national level to the global level to the controllers. And so they might be vampires. They might be people with nanotechnology in them that drink blood to refuel their nanomachines. They could be whatever. And The idea is, so in that game, you may be able to stop the conspiracy, you may not be able to. So who knows?
That all sounds pretty rad, but when I hear Jason Bourne, my immediate question is, how exactly do you work shaky cam as a game attribute?
I haven't read it all yet. Like I've just got
Somebody comes in and just shakes the table while you're trying to read your roll.
I got the PDF from the people of Pelgrim Press, but it's like a 280-page thing, so I've just started looking at it. It's pretty complex. So
I like the idea of coming up with your own conspiracy, though. That's pretty rad. Because, I mean, most of the time, if there's a conspiracy-based game, the book will be like, hey, here's what our conspiracy is for today. Or they'll give you, like, a conspiracy menu. It's one of these.
Right,
and
it's
so
very much a
you-
toolkit thing. But, like, if you do this conspiracy-type game, like, what is the result of stopping this conspiracy? Does
it be
anything
stopped?
change?
What would happen if
Can it be changed? Can you even get away? So
Should it be changed?
Yeah.
Should it be changed?
So
Should it be changed?
now there is one other topic I'd like to talk about, and this is a little bit of an update, like talking about integrating players into a game. So this is relating to campaign structure because. And it relates to campaign structure, too, because it actually matters. During the No Evil campaign, we've had 2 players join us at various parts. We've already met one, Drew, who's playing the ultimate security guard.
Max Jax.
Yeah, Max. And we didn't handle that very well because we didn't give him very good advice about what to make his character like. And he was like, yeah, I'll just show up and start playing. So, as you've already seen in the actual plays, he didn't because Eclipse Phase is a science fiction horror game. You have a willpower stat, and that helps you resist mental trauma because you can go crazy. And Max has the minimum in that. He had like a 10 in it, and like the maximum is like 30. So like his attribute was very low, so he may fail a lot of checks. He went crazy a lot. And so we won't spoil what happens to him, but eventually Drew had to move, or Drew moved away for the summer, so his character stopped playing. So we've recently had a new player join us, David, who's playing a scientist type who we gave him better advice. Like max out your willpower, like that. So
And also just the stuff that Caleb did to integrate him.
yeah, I think that's another thing. Is like Caleb didn't do anything to integrate Drew into the campaign. He just like Firewall sent you, show up and help them. And in David's chase, he tied him into a plot hook that
so we needed him.
Yeah, so we needed his help. So I don't know. What do you think about like integrating players? What have you learned, or what else have I missed? Anything about integrating players into an existing campaign? Because David even had some character stuff too.
Yeah.
Because he knew his character very well from the beginning. Like he knew he would help this person out and wouldn't do that, but he wouldn't do this. He'd do that and wouldn't do that. So that was very good for David. So I don't know. What do you guys?
Well, he came up with his character days before he actually made it.
Right.
He does like I do. He came up with what he wanted to do, and then he answered the questions.
Right.
So he essentially made a character he wanted to stick with for the long term, no matter whatever that long term might be.
Right. So so wait, he did questions too? Do you know this, or you're just?
Yeah, I did it with him while I was in the car with him.
Okay. So what were the questions? I mean, like what were they ones you made up, or there?
Yeah, well, I asked some basic ones like like who, what, like what's this person's name, obviously.
Yeah.
Where is he from originally? Does he have any family? Then I start, it's
Where are you from originally?
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, the usual stuff isn't working.
So, but then actually, it kind of it's kind of like then like David, we were heading from the north side to the south side of the town, so I basically just interviewed his character, kind of.
All right.
I asked his character questions through him.
Okay.
And really, by the end, then he would somebody will go, well, let me answer that by asking you this. So we went back and forth. By the time we arrived at Golden Corral, which I believe was our final destination on that road, ride.
Yeah, because you never really do leave Golden Corral. There's a part of you that's always left behind there.
Yes, it's true.
Nice.
But yeah, by the time we arrived there, we pretty well had we pretty much had a good character. But the thing is, we kept going.
Okay.
Even as we ate, we would just banter back and forth like that.
Okay.
Because we both enjoy that kind of thing. So really, yeah, by the time he finally committed it to paper, we had his character down.
All right.
And exactly, and I even did at one time I switched over to Preston. So, what would you bring to our organization?
You're giving him a job interview.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I totally dig that.
I mean, he didn't know very much about like the Eclipse phase world, did he?
He did borrow the book from
and
Caleb,
actually,
I think.
and during another trip, we were taking Caleb home. Caleb basically went over the entire game.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't think anybody did any of that with Drew.
no, we didn't, and Drew just showed up. So
part of that's at least on us.
no, a lot of it is on us. Like we really
No,
did
the
give
only
him
part of it because we're still great. Except you monster.
Yeah,
But
I see how it is. We're great, and then I go, oh no, they went
But
to
I
hell
kinda
after
think
I
like-
left.
but
I see how
actually-
it is.
Yes.
But the job, I like the job interview kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
That's
I
a
like
great
that.
idea. Yeah, I love that. So that's definitely if you're integrating somebody in a campaign, existing campaign, some kind of process. Like the more work you do with them, I don't want to say work, but the more prep you do,
Interaction.
interaction you do ahead of time, the more
The
it
more you
benefits.
perhaps immerse them in the world.
You know, another thing you could do is like run a one shot using the same characters. Like if you wanted to do like say Twin Peaks game, your team FBI agent.
You're really hung up on that, aren't you?
Well, it works perfectly for structurally reasons. You know, for structural reasons. That like your team FBI agents, you're investigating the murder. The murder's going to take, or how about the killing? All right, the killing. That the whole thing's
Look, I'm
about.
not judging you. I'm just
Okay.
over here.
All right, so you're a team FBI agents. You're investigating a murder. That's the campaign. And there's a lot of other crimes that you find. It's a very complicated mystery. Blah blah blah. So, new player shows up. He's playing a forensics, profiler or something like that, or just a SWAT guy or whatever.
Oh, like that guy who showed up and hated everyone, who was the forensic scientist.
Yeah, something like that. So, like, how do you integrate them in the campaign? Well, why not run like a one-shot? Like your FBI agents say, oh, well, you still have to do other investigations. Like, oh, hey, there's a bank robbery. Go get those guys, or partake in a raid. Like, we need every agent we can get because we're raiding a meth lab.
You have like a side story game to
Just a
bring 'em
one
in.
shot where and give the guy plenty of time to shine and like nothing, and then the other players can talk to him and like interact with them. So like, it wouldn't necessarily be like a one-on-one thing, but everybody gets a chance to do it without super high stakes. So like,
That's one of the things that I need to actually run this game for real sometime, since, as I said before, it failed spectacularly. But one of the things I really like about Spirit of the Century is like the way they talk about developing characters.
Yeah.
Involves like the first session is largely figuring out how your characters know each other and like what they've done together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea. And I mean, that's essentially what it is, just finding that way to tie this new character in with the group, figure out, what their strengths are. And that's pretty boss.
So there's definitely a lot of mechanics to sort of build on that. Some systems are better about it than others, but you don't need a system to do it. I mean, you can do it there's no game. You don't need fucking game mechanics for a job interview. And that wouldn't necessarily work in a D&D game, but it could be like, again, a one shot. Like, hey, we're gonna go kill some goblins because they're attacking the town. Like everybody's in the bar, and then dragons show up.
Fucking dragons.
Yeah, always showing up and just being assholes. So like, go kill the
A dragon staggers in drunk, demanding
like
free
making
beer.
like some other assholes on a quest. Oh, the Dragonborn's shown up, and dragons attack him every time. Let's go kill
That guy.
He just left. He didn't even kill his dragon. I'm like, fine, we'll go kill the dragon for him. So do something like that.
Boost Road dick.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of thing you need to think about. So integrating new players into an existing campaign. So any other final thoughts about campaign structure? I think, again, the main thing is realizing at the very beginning what kind of game you want to run. I explicitly said,
and make sure your players are into it.
well, yeah.
As much as you can. I mean, you can't be like,
think part
okay,
of it-
here's everything I'm going to do. Are you okay with that?
I think it's not necessarily telling them, but knowing like giving them some idea, but you don't want to spoil everything for it. So like giving them some general indication, like especially I think for that is like, if you want to do a character-based game, like ask them a lot more questions about your characters so that they know their character a lot better. I know, like Bartleby, it took me a while to get a real handle on, but like. And because there's nothing wrong, because you don't know the character until you play him. I think you can't just, no matter how well you write it out or you describe your character, until he's in the game with other people.
Yeah, you have to start responding to things as them.
Yeah, and the other players, because you don't know how they're going to be. So I think you just have to give them some idea. And especially if you're an established group, you should know what your players are like a little bit, at least. You'd think,
I pay attention sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
I don't know any of you people.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah, I see how it is.
How did I get here?
Yeah, I see how it is. So
You're going to take an arrow to the knee.
yeah, just know what's available and realize you can actions can have consequences. They don't have to, or they can have different consequences. You don't have to say like if you kill the dragon, X will happen and only X will happen. It's your game, so say like if you kill the dragon, then there's not necessarily. I don't have to deal with the power vacuum or the civil war between his minions or shit like that. Just say they all flee or they stay the same or like whatever works better for your game. So
Run the game you want to run.
Yeah, I mean. Just realize that there is the possibility of narrative power creep. The idea that you don't have to keep raising the stakes. I mean, depending on
there are different ways of raising the stakes than just physical danger.
I mean, like for example, like in LA Noire, the thing that broke immersion for me was the idea that you solve all these mysteries, but you just have to murder so many people in this. Like, yes, for the listeners at home, that is imitating the character from LA Noire by rotating the postcard back and forth. Because that's how the LA Noire. Too bad there's no dead body for you to fondle. I mean, that's a real thing.
I feel really bad about that.
Yeah. So in that game, you have to kill so many guys for it. It just doesn't make sense. Like in a cult, like again, going the FBI murder mystery campaign. Like you could do a whole game where like the players don't get in very many gunfights, and when they do, they're not like against a horde of like Max Payne 3, like 500 SWAT guys or whatever.
I mean, if you're playing an FBI game, if you want to crank up the realism, it's like you have to explain to your superiors every shot you fire,
or cover it up.
Or bullshit it.
Or break the law.
Just like get throw guns and like hide the body, like commit murder, like legitimately make people disappear.
Make it training day.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Ross, are you going to run like a Stalin let's disappear people game now?
No, I'm not. I'm just going to make that an option. Like, yeah, you can report the murder and they'll suspend you and you won't get a promotion, or you can melt the body in acid.
There is this pit of acid right here. Nobody's using it.
My father owns an acid factory.
It's just industrial.
We manufacture vats of acid.
Yeah,
it's like the second episode of Breaking Bad. Like, let's melt the body in acid. Like, that's the second episode. So,
thanks a lot.
I know I'm such a monster.
It's had a tea cozy on his head.
So. But again, like the idea is like if you do a system like Call of Cthulhu, like if you get shot, it really fucking sucks. There's still a lot of danger and tension in it. It's making it. Drama doesn't necessarily mean like a good game doesn't mean high power, low power, escalation of like fighting or whatever. Just because the stakes of the story are rising doesn't mean the stakes of the individual conflict have to rise.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like a deadly gunfight is still a deadly fucking gunfight.
That's one of those things that we talked about just as far as writing goes.
Yeah.
As when I taught creative writing, a lot of students would just not know how to would not understand the idea of conflict that didn't involve somebody getting hit.
Yeah.
Like, knowing how to manage interpersonal conflicts as opposed to just something needs to get shot.
Well, even I mean, not just like or even in violence, not necessarily like in Max Payne 3, you start out shooting a few guys, but by level 10, you're fucking shooting an entire army.
Every male adult in that country.
Yeah. So I mean, in a sense, that's part of the genre because it's this action thing that's,
I'm so gritty.
Yeah, exactly.
What have I done with my life?
You don't need to do that. Like, it's still ridiculously dangerous. Like DayZ, like in that mod, like,
I knew you'd get to it.
Yeah, I know. Like, you're always just fighting other random assholes who have just scavenged up a few weapons, but the tension is ridiculous because it can come from anywhere and have any number of forms. At one point, you could be just shooting guys that are trying to snipe you. The next point, they're pointing guns at you and asking you Seinfeld trivia questions. Answer this question, or before the zombies come and shoot you. And there are videos of that. That happens. Get on the bus, or we'll shoot you.
Like, seriously, that game just makes its players into the crazy villains from zombie survival movies.
Oh, it does. It does. So, Just some things to think about. So if you have any questions or comments about escalating or de-escalating conflict, let us know, and we will do our best to answer them. So we'll be back. Tom does not have a letter. We do have shout-outs and a letter and an anecdote.
Well, the thing is, I had a letter, but then I started writing it, and suddenly I realized it actually deserves more than what I was giving it.
Ooh.
So it will be the letter I will read for our pre-Gen Con show.
All right. Very good. We'll be back in a bit. And we're back. So first off, we'll get a couple of shout-outs out of the way. Thad, you wanted to mention one game you've been playing recently.
Yes. Well, I mean...
kind of indirectly referenced already.
Yeah, because you guys already did a shout-out to Lone Survivor, didn't you?
I did, yeah, because it was a great game.
Well, I was looking around for other games made by the same guy, Jasper Byrne, I think is his name, and I found a demake that he did of Silent Hill 2 called Soundless Mountain 2, and it is... just a point-and-click, a 2D point-and-click adventure game version of Silent Hill 2, which are two of my favorite things mashed into... It's like the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup of video games, and it's just...
Which someone died.
I mean, it's not the most perfect thing ever, but it's fun. I like it.
The D-Make, really? You a big fan of the D-Makes?
I like it. It's a fun idea.
It's a fun idea. I mean, I like it.
Oh, well, a lot of them suck. I'll give you that.
Okay.
No, that's... I'm not looking for quality. I'm just looking for things that amuse me. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Yes.
Tom, I know you probably want to describe this since it's one we've both been recently watching, the show Adventure Time. So.
Oh, yeah. What I believe it was described as... was it... Fantasia meets Carcosa.
That was your description, yeah. There's I can't say that's wrong. I mean, so do you want to describe for the listeners, those of them who have not watched this show?
It's the apocalypse has happened.
Yeah.
There's one human boy left, and they go and he has a talking dog companion.
Shape-shifting
talking dog.
It's basically a Shoggoth.
And they go on adventures.
Jake is a Shoggoth. I don't know why you're... No. Yeah, it's true.
And yes, I know we're a little late to the gate on this one, but we watched over at... Caleb's has the DVD.
Yeah. So we've been watching for season 1. It's pretty insane. The Y Wolves, I think, are the single thing he found the funniest.
And Bloodlust.
Yeah. So that's a good show. Of course, we already mentioned Rimward, which is the new Eclipse Phase book, source book describing the outer rim, basically. Everything past Mars, everything that wasn't covered in Sunward. But
all those other planets.
Yeah, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune,
Uranus.
Basically. Yeah, Uranus. And the Oort cloud. We can't forget the Oort cloud.
Oort cloud, yeah.
One of the great things I like is they even describe the farthest man-made objects in the universe in Eclipse Phase. Mm. The farthest one out is like 38,000 AUs out, like really deep, and the Jovians control it. It's like some probe that has self-repair functions that was sent out before the fall, but like the Jovians somehow got the protocols to control it, so they tell it what to do. And there's just a lot of shit, like crazy anarchist collective habitats, systems, the Titanians. I've just started reading it, and it's great. So there's new morphs too. There's one that you like, Tom. There's several. But there's one that's called Fenrir. The wolf from Norse mythology that eats everything. Yeah, it's a combat morph that can house up to 6 egos. It's like this walker tank that has like crazy durability and armor and has a shitload of weapons. So you can have up to 6 egos in it. So it's basically like guy 1 controls gun 1. So you can have like...
So it's like Artemis Spaceship Simulator, but with a body.
Yeah, exactly. But everyone has a gun. So yeah, speaking of the next shout out, Artemis Spaceship Simulator. Thanks for that little
segue.
Very subtle. I don't think our listeners would realize that. Artemis Space, I know we mentioned it before, I got the game, I've set it up on my computer and my old laptop, and we're going to play it next week, and we're going to record it. So at some point, there will be an RPPR video of us playing Artemis Spaceship Simulator. So we will thrill and chill you with our entertainments. I don't even know. It's going to be a train wreck.
Yeah. It's us.
Oh, it's us. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
going to insist on talking like Bane the whole time.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of outer space, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but the board game Twilight Imperium.
Okay.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
For the 4 turns that we played of it, it was pretty sweet.
Over 5 hours. we played 4 turns.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever
was
play.
Was it 5? I thought it was 6.
No, I don't know. I think it was closer to 6 hours.
I wish we could play it again, because now, when we finally got a grip on it around hour 5, I felt like it would have been, if only we had time and inclination.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is true. It is a very complex game. I can see it has very deep gameplay, but god damn, it takes for fucking ever. And
we had 2 tables.
Yeah. Dan, who owns it, said he's played 3 complete games of it, and he's had it for 10 years.
He bought it during the ice storm of 2007.
No, he had it before then. He had it in 2004. He bought it in 2004. I think 2007 was the first time he completed an entire game of it.
So basically what you're saying is the world had to shut down around him for a complete game to be played.
Yeah. That's... Oh my god. And that's not even in the top 10 of longest board games / war games. I mean, that's not even in the top 50. It depends on if you count war games, then no, because there's so many fucking epic war games that take forever to go. I know I've talked about Campaign for North Africa, but there are games that are less complex than Campaign for North Africa, but that's not saying much. That people actually play, I don't know.
I thought the setting for Twilight Imperium was really cool. If there was a game that was that, but less time, I would play it with little provocation.
Yeah. No joke.
But no, I think it needed to be shouted out.
No, yeah, definitely. I would like to mention the next. I just got this. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. The Apocalypse Codex, which is the next book in the Laundry novels, i.e., the Atrocity Archives, the Charles Stross series novels, where magic is a field of math, and you can run spells through computers. You can have your Necronomicon Necronomipod, where you have an app for death spells.
There's an app for
yeah, and summoning demons and spirits and all this other good shit. And there's a Laundry RPG already out. I've read it. It's really cool, and I really want to read the Apocalypse Codex. So I'm going to read that first, and it will be baller. So deal with that.
Dealt with.
If it just suddenly sucks, you're going to be really sad.
I'm going to be very, very sad. So finally,
Ross gonna cry.
Tom, you watch this too. The newest Rift Tracks. You want to give a little?
Oh my god, was it the bloody pit of
horror? Yeah,
that just sounds like the greatest thing.
Yeah, you would think. No, it's a guy torturing people in a not luchador mask.
Yeah,
it's
an Italian horror film made in the 70s. It's 74 minutes long. It's just
horrendously dubbed.
It's just ridiculous.
What was going on in Italy in the 70s? Because I've seen a lot of movies from then and there, and
they
had some issues.
They did have issues, and their film industry. Oh my god! How do they go from Fellini to this? I don't even know.
No, let's just say that it's a guy that he's basically in the stalker position, like the hunched over stalker position, through most of the entirety of the end of the movie. It's like just saying, "I am the Crimson Executioner."
Well, I mean, the riffing is pretty good. So,
the riffing is always great, but it's one of those movies. Even
with the riff, it's a little.
It's kind of like the last. It's kind of like the last Airbender. Even with the riff tracks, it's really hard to watch.
I enjoyed it. You guys just are weak. I don't know. Of course, it was because of the riff tracks. But speaking of an actual good film, Juan of the Dead.
Oh.
This is Cathay, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, no, it was really. I'd heard of it vaguely online just because I'm a nerd and I hear things, but it was really well put together. Actually, there were character arcs and there was political satire and stuff. And that really, when I go to a zombie movie, I set my bar at: are there going to be some interesting looking deaths? And anything above that is just gravy. And so this was, I was really impressed with it by the end. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, if you know things about Cuba,
Yeah, there's a lot of references that you can kind of tell is about Cuban history, but like as a non-Cuban, a couple of the jokes are going to be lost a little bit. But or it just gives you an insight into the Cuban mindset and the way of life. I don't know. It's a really funny movie. It's a really good. It's up there with Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland. In my opinion, it's not a romantic comedy. It's about a father at its core, about a father reuniting with his daughter.
Yeah.
So
and sort of dealing with his own hang-ups about his place in the world and all that stuff.
Well, the zombies are just the excuse for the drama. So, like every great
zombies shamble the action forward.
Yeah. So that's coming. That's on.
View it with your eye parts.
Yes.
Also, listen to it if you have ears.
One other thing, I've just finished the first season of The League. It's an FX show about a fantasy football league where the guys, everyone in it is way too competitive. Caleb told me about it. It's actually, you don't need it. The great thing about it is you don't need to know anything about football or fantasy football.
That's good because I'm nearly 30 and I do not know how football works.
Yeah, I don't know how fantasy football works. I know
played
they
it in Little League.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I know how football. I don't know how fantasy football works. I don't want to know how it works. But it's all about how these guys are married, mostly married. Some are married, some are single. One guy's getting a divorce, but they're all just insanely competitive with each other. They just give each other they've been friends for 15 years, and they just loathe each other's guts because of how I can't believe you won this week. Oh my god, you son of a bitch. It's great. It's all about. Yeah, so all the characters. It's one of those shows, kind of like Reno 911, where it's like all the major actors in it are stand-up comedians, and they kind of improv the whole thing. So it's just lots of shit talking, and for the dialogue.
See if they can make a decent show about fantasy football. Why don't we do one about tabletop gaming?
Because we need good stand-up actors with
Patton
improv
Oswalt.
skill.
Yeah, let's get Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah.
Someone have his phone
Do
number.
that happen.
Ricky
Make
Gervais.
it-
I don't have my phone with me, so I don't have his phone number.
Yeah.
Ricky Gervais too.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, sure. Patton Oswalt, Ricky Gervais talking about tabletop.
Louis C.K.
Yeah,
I want-
CK. Yeah, why not? Of course.
Yeah.
Who else do you want? Let's
want Louis
let's
CK to play
resurrect
Tom.
Bill Hicks while we're at it. And George
Ooh, that's
Carlin.
good. Can we rebuild him?
Pryor.
And Richard Pryor. Yeah, to
go.
round out the
Yeah.
whole team. Yeah.
Actually, get Andy Kaufman. I mean, if we're gonna do
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. That's less.
Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Ross seems to be really going along with this. I don't trust it.
No, I don't either.
I don't think he's really going to help us with this.
You got to raise the dead app, don't you?
I wish. And finally, I want to talk. Roll20 is a new virtual tabletop that looks really good. I'm going to be trying out with the next Kickstarter, which I'm going to, as soon as I get that up, I'll be telling all you guys about it. So
Until then,
base rated. Well, it's base rated. It's going to be based on Heroes of New Arcadia. Superhero dungeon crawling. Imagine doing a game where you're dungeon crawling through Superman's abandoned Fortress of Solitude. It's not just to get to loot, but to shut down all the shit he left behind. That's really, really dangerous. Or Dr. Doom's castle.
really? A Kryptonian war suit? What's that going to do? It
Yeah.
just sits there, and if anyone is in it, kills a bunch of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Or Dr. Doom's castle. He didn't leave the stove on.
Yeah, but it's full of robot duplicates of himself. You would think they would just take care of it.
Yeah, no, they would. Yeah.
While talking
Those
about themselves
Doombots
in
are
the third person.
Let's trust the safety of the world to Doombots.
Yeah, because
Doom makes no errors in his programming.
except when he's doing his plan, did I turn off the iron?
No, it would be did Doom turn off. Yeah.
Then he activates the death ray. Maybe I should get a puppy.
Okay. All right, so that's the shout-outs. So moving on. Well, we got a couple letters. First off, we have from Joseph. Hi, I've always enjoyed your podcast. Appreciate the advice and entertainment it provides. I especially like the anecdotes. They're often crazy funny. Anyways, I'm an avid fan of role-playing in general, though there isn't much of a role-playing community where I live, also my opinion. And I also might have a fair talent at writing. It would seem it would be a good idea for me to search a career in an area where my skills and interests intersect, since our RPPR is involved in role-playing publications. Many of the team members have experience in the field. It seemed like a good idea to ask you guys an opinion on what is the best way to get started in this field. I'm not dead set on this course of action, but I've considered about a month now, and I wonder if you could ask the RPPR team for advice and guidance in this area. Any response would be greatly appreciated. I'm surely, yeah. So, how do you get started in role-playing writing? So that's kind of like freelance writing anywhere else. It's hard to do, and it's got low pay. So good
You
job.
just elbow your way through the crowd and hope you get somewhere.
Aim for the throat.
In general, basically how I got started is writing PDF only stuff. They're like, if you go to Drive Through RPG or RPGnow.com, you can go to you can find publishers that they just publish like cheap little PDFs, like, hey, here's a short adventure, here's a little resource for your game, and so those pay really badly. But you don't
about getting your name out.
Yeah, it's about getting publications. So you do that. To find places to work, just look for publishers and see if they have submissions policies. A lot of them do have submission policies. Even if they don't, you can email them and ask them. And then there are a couple of like RPG.net has forums. There's a free gaming freelance section, and there are occasionally open calls. They're like, hey, we need writers to write about dungeons and discos. Hey, why not write for us? So. It'll pay half a cent per word.
Dungeon crawl of all time.
A beholder on the dance floor.
So when the first book I did, Curriculum of Conspiracy, I literally just went to Shane Ivey, the publisher art dream at Gen Con the first year I was there. It's like, hey, I want to write a book for you guys. Here's an idea I have. Like, all right, send us a proposal. I did, and then it went from there. So basically,
network.
There's network. It's really like
you got to be the guy to be the guy.
Freelance writing in any other sector, like there's no unique secret. It's not fundamentally different than freelance writing in any other type of field. So like you get the writer's market book, you get books, magazines like that. They'll have better advice on how to write query letters. Like, hey, I have this. Do you want how to write proposals? It's a professional thing. So like if you can write freelance writing anywhere else, it's no different from RPGs. You're just writing about orcs instead of SEO bullshit, or I know I'm cynical. I'm a monster. So
Search
that's
engine
very
optimization sucks.
Yeah. So the best thing, if you can go to a convention and talk to a bunch of publishers like Gen Con or Origins or something like that, that would be best. But if you can't, just email all of them and be persistent. And
find ways to make sure people know your name.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I can say.
Hello.
So,
My name is Ross Payton. You accepted my submission.
Prepare to die.
Prepare to publish.
all right,
I thought mine was more accurate.
all right. So next question, next letter. They've been building up for a little while. Hello, RPPR. My name's Oren. I'm slowly working my way through your archives after discovering the show through iTunes. So far, the show has been awesome. I finally got to an episode which I had to respond. In fact, the episode you did ask for feedback. I'm sure the fact the episode was Bildungsroman from July of 2011 will have no impact on the relevancy of what I'm about to say.
Everything else has a really long lead time on it. I don't see why this would be any different.
In that episode, you were discussing why so many systems go for a much slower advancement system than D&D, and I think I can help. First, it's important to note the difference between character growth and ability advancement. John Sheridan from Babylon 5, for example, at the end of the series, he's gone from being an Earth commander to de facto ruler of an independent space nation. Spoiler alert.
Aren't you supposed to say that before?
It's for fucking Babylon 5. You're going to be spoiled by Babylon 5. You just get the fuck out, as Cody would say.
Comes like frog snatch.
Not to mention lead a multinational fleet against. Well, is it really national?
Interracial.
Fleet against the Shadows and the Vorlons. Whoops, spoiler. See, he did it too.
Oh.
He put it in parentheses there. So.
Because other people do it, that makes it okay.
Yeah. It's exactly how that works.
I've never really got the whole social contract.
Anyways, there's some definite character growth right there, but his abilities haven't changed that much. He was already a tactical genius when the show started. His tactic skills maybe 1 or 2 ranks higher than it was at the start. Maybe he's picked up a couple of low-level social skills, but that's about it. His character
and a Minbari girlfriend.
Okay. His character is very...
Son of a bitch, I remember that.
Yeah, did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Totally did.
Top to bottom.
Yeah.
On TV.
Nice.
Wow. I remember, you used to have to sit there at a particular time.
Yeah.
Weird.
Crazy.
So his character is very different in terms of what he believes, but his actual abilities haven't changed much. Star Wars is actually another example of slow ability growth. Realistically, Luke's main advancement is a few ranks in lightsaber fighting, and that advancement mainly happens between films, and when who knows how much time has passed, a few years according to the extended universe, but that's neither here nor there. His force powers are a special circumstance, something that was unlocked, in quote marks, by Yoda's training, probably involved no character points at all. The other character is even more obvious. Han goes through a radical character change changed selfish smuggler to rebel hero, but nothing indicates his piloting or fighting abilities have drastically increased. I'm just going to stop that right. Just saying, I disagree. Like, Luke's gone through a fucking massive character growth because, like, he goes from being a farm boy to being a badass Jedi.
He goes through the monomyth.
Yeah, exactly. He does like become really fucking badass by the end of it.
Because most people
you can't make the case for
Luke. He
Luke.
can barely shoot a blaster.
They walk into the room with
movie.
Darth Vader, and that's the end of what you're doing now. But
yeah,
let's fight.
Come on, did you see the fight between Vader from Empire to Jedi?
Yeah, exactly.
Vader kicked his ass.
That was a curb stomping.
Yeah, exactly. Cut his whole hand off.
Yeah, all of it.
The only reason why he wasn't because he is his dad's.
Not just the fingertips, the whole hand.
Yeah. So, like, I disagree with that. You could make the case for Han, though, because, yeah, he's not. It really is a moral thing. So, unless he was just buying off disadvantages, that's what he was doing. He was totally doing that.
It was really great to see the light bulb go off.
He
on
was
top
a
of your
real.
head.
He was a badass from beginning to end. You know, still the equal of Luke by the end of the movies. So he like was the dick, the kind of player. He's like, I spent 500 points, all right, on disadvantages. So I'm just this super badass enemy. The Hutt enemy. You know, this guy.
So just you're resolving his hooks and buying.
Yeah.
off
He just
things.
you just save up the. I bought off the Hutt disadvantage. Oh, your friends can rescue you now. So that's what you do. So that's Oh my god, that totally makes sense. So yeah, if you think of character growth of getting rid of defects, that's still he does change quite a bit.
GURPS thing.
Yeah. So that's not to say there aren't examples of characters gaining abilities extremely high speeds in media.
Captain America gets them pretty fast.
Yeah. So that kind of thing. Systems with a slow ability advancement, World of Darkness, Star Wars D6, Burning Wheel, usually have that way on purpose because it's more grounded in reality. Yep, because Star Wars is very grounded in reality, as we know. And
They start off as street level.
Yeah.
Space magic.
And they're for easier to build a narrative run. Really, a lot of GMs don't want the players to go from newbies to ultimate immortal badasses in what turns out to be only a few months to a year of game time. It takes people years of work and training to achieve that level of skill. Players want to play such high-level characters. Makes more sense to start there rather than work your way up. So
Also, like the starting off at an epic level type game.
yeah, honestly though, I've never had a good experience with those. Like where you start out as the ultimate badass.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I mean,
Because at that point, why would we go do anything?
yeah.
Well, it seems like that almost leads into just let's just fuck around with our powers instead of let's do some character.
And that kind of like leads to like if you can just fuck around with your powers, you get bored with it. Like I
didn't earn that power.
well, even if you earn it, you get bored with it. Like I played through and beat Saints Row 3 because of the Steam summer sale. It was like $12, and like because of some of the DLC, you know, I had some crazy weapons to begin with. But you get crazy like the thing I didn't know is you get crazy weapons and vehicles even if you don't have the DLC. So I wouldn't have gotten like half the DLC because like I got one DLC because it gives you a jet bike, but you get like 2 other jet bikes through the game. So like
You blow up an aircraft carrier.
you don't even need that that particular jet bike. So like but by the end of the game I bought like immunity to almost all forms of damage.
You were saying
Yeah.
you were saying you bought that thing where your like notoriety just starts going down really fast.
Yeah, so you can kill anybody, no one can kill you, and even if you kill everybody, they don't give a fuck.
It becomes the I shot you first game as a child. It's like, no, you can't kill me. I kill you first.
Well, the thing is, like, I just went out there and tried to get up to 5 stars against the gangs and the police, just so I could like see people die, just have my own personal apocalypse. I couldn't even do that. Like,
you couldn't get people to die for your amusement.
I couldn't get people to try and kill me enough for my amusement.
They were afraid of you.
Yeah, I guess. So, like, what's the point of playing?
Deception of powerful agents.
Oh my god. So like, what's the point of playing after a certain after you've beaten all the missions in Saints Row 3, you got all the power.
So basically, it's like if you start out at Epic, it's that, but from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my experience. I mean, I'm sure there were people like, no, I started level 20, I'm not level 80 in D&D or whatever, and blah, 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 like, wrong. But, you know, I don't know. That's my experience.
Yeah, but unless you start, like, plane jumping or something,
I think in any game, you need to start with significant challenges and things your characters cannot do. Because, you know, like, regardless of what those things are, there have to be significant, like, challenges, you know. But because if there aren't, then, you know, why are you playing? So... and the game to some point has to be about overcoming those challenges, you know, whatever they are. You know, they could be totally story based, they could be like practical, mechanical. So anyways, I hope that little excerpt from the past was at least entertaining, if not informed. Keep up the good work. So, thanks a bunch for reading that excerpt from the Fatal Review. Haven't laughed that hard in a while. So that was that letter. And finally, from Max. Hi, guys. I've been listening to your show, An Actual Place, for half a year now, and I love it. Thanks for doing them. It's very entertaining and helpful. I ran sessions as a GM now, Trail of Cthulhu and Call of Cthulhu. With my friends, I want to ask advice on how to handle a particular type of player that I play with. Basically, each session he plays and he becomes stuck a few times in a very specific manner, trying to make himself a safety cushion, consisting of cops or something like that. His favorite solution is, hey, there's obvious something dangerous here. Let's call the cops and see what happens.
So they're basically, it's like having that robot to go and defuse the bomb, except they're sending cops in to poke the threat with a stick.
He's got some examples. All right. For example, we played against a small cult that wanted to launch a rocket into space. The Big Hoodoo Adventure. After players understood what they needed to do to go and stop and launch, everyone decided to get a weapon. He wanted to get a sniper rifle. There was no sniper rifle in the Trail of Cthulhu rules, but there was a Barrett elephant rifle. Well, after some discussion, I allowed him to get it after his character was a soldier, knew how to handle a weapon, and he had some luck finding it. When the fighting started, he stayed in the bushes a few hundred yards away, shooting the cultists. He failed his first shot and decided to move closer so that he would shoot better. Running through the grove, he failed his athletics check and fell down. And this happened 4 times in a row. Shoot, miss, try to get closer, fall down, repeat. On the 5th shot, he did something useful, but we were already laughing like crazy. And, of course, the players agreed to call the cops ahead beforehand. Officers, communists are there, and they kidnapped a child and want to kill him, so the cops saved everyone.
Fucking commies.
Yeah, exactly. Yesterday, we played the haunting scenario. Including the Call of Cthulhu Quick Start rules, and decided after falling down through the floorboards and getting hurt, he decided he doesn't want to get hurt anymore on these rickety stairs leading to the baseboards. So they spend 20 minutes arguing about whether he can hire some workers that would install a new ladder, and can he call the cops because there might be something bad in the basement, deceiving them of the nature of badness so as the cops would believe it. Yeah, I mentioned the floorboards so much. He mentioned the floorboards during that time. I decided to give him a 1d4 sanity roll because that was clearly a big mental trauma for his character. Yes, it was hilarious. And another player put it, Terry Pratchett meets Call of Cthulhu. But it's not Call of Cthulhu anymore. Dangerous situation. Let's hire some guys to fix it. Or call the cops and see what happens. When he clearly starts metagame, I point that out, and he usually stops. But that doesn't always work, or he just keeps going back to that behavior. That's his default thing. So what should you do? So
don't have people available.
Well, that's once a
blow up the police station.
Yeah. Okay. So the one that's one solution.
Or blow them, trap them underground for 3 months,
or make the police complicit with the cult.
All right, so that's one. Take that away. I mean, you can, but again, that's kind of like same thing in the superhero game. If you have one player who's a telepath, and then like the bad guy's immune to telepathy, that's okay the first time. The 5th time
or
it happens,
he just becomes the guy who cries wolf to the police.
Well, actually, what I did was make the context to where they can't help. Like it's not like it wouldn't even be considered like going to help them. Like for example, like the cult has a child hostage. Well, like, if you call the cops, the kid will get killed. Like, they'll either kill him or they won't be able to rescue him. Only the player's in a position to help him. Or like in the haunting scenario, here's what I would do. Let the cops come. Let them show up. They fucking die. The cops get murdered by the ghost in the haunting. The PCs get blamed for it. Oh. So then they have to solve, or they get arrested for it. They get integrate, but the police don't have evidence on them. So like they're like, well, what do we do? Well, the police let you go, but you're under investigation now, so don't leave town. So the PC's like, oh shit, we have to prove the house is haunted, or we're going to be like either arrested and put on murder, or the police are just going to run us out, or just going to make our lives hell. So like now they've made it more difficult for themselves. So now they have to get the district attorney to believe the ghost story. So like that's the thing. Like now it's even worse. So like, you should always do a campaign to where it's about framing, I think.
I'm not going to acknowledge the existence of ghosts. I don't believe in them either. So we're not going to have a lot of malarkey about goblins and spooks and demons. Or stick to the facts in this case. Leave the ghost story for the kiddies. Is that understood?
Seems like an open-minded guy.
Yeah, they call him the Hammer.
All right. So,
see you in a couple of years. It's your first parole hearing.
They'll never take us alive.
All right. So that's
we forgot to do that.
Yeah.
Our conversation is nothing but movie quotes.
We still have time to do that. So anyways, I'm like, so it's about framing. Like, the idea is if he keeps doing this kind of thing, set up the game so that calling for help won't solve it. Like, and make it obvious. Yeah, make it obvious. Like, make it like the cult is going to kidnap these guys, but they're in international waters, or they're in some place where the police can't get to.
Diplomatic immunity.
Or a diplomatic immunity.
Revoked.
Or if the cops show up, or make it clear that the bad guys have a snitch, a mole in the police department. There are different ways, or just like it won't even, if you think about movies, the guy in Taken, he calls the police, he tells them what happens. They're like, yeah, we can't do much. We don't know where it is. It's up to him to go.
Besides, you're Liam Neeson. Go and kill everybody.
Yeah, basically. So like, the police can't do everything. So like,
especially with a supernatural scenario.
Yeah.
It seems like calling the police is just a recipe for not good things.
If it's like a serial killer who's just magically empowered, that's one thing. But they're not going to be able to stop him because they don't have the magic dagger of Yendor that's going to be able to stab him.
Yendor.
So yeah.
Or you could set, have the cops show up and they don't find anything.
Yeah. And then now you're crazy, and it's the boy that cries wolf. So it's
they have you committed. The rest of the people have to break you out.
Again, the idea is like look at good movies and thrillers and see how they deal with the police. And there's a million ways of doing it. So again, you just have to keep coming up with the reasons why. Like otherwise, the play. That's the other thing is if the player fucking never stops doing that and bitches at you, if you're like, oh god, the police can't do this, huh? Oh, that's stupid. Blah blah blah. Well, then fucking don't game with him. Like he sounds like an asshole. Like. A little bit. I don't know. Maybe he's a good player. He just doesn't realize he's doing that. Maybe he's just thinking with his real... Like, a lot of people just think with a real-world brain. And, like, if you see zombies, I call the police,
See, I never had one of those, and that's why that's never been a problem for me.
There you go. So...
Thinking hurts.
Those are some of our little
Real
letters.
world, what?
So finally we have the anecdote, and the anecdote is, of course, going to be about Star Wars Wild Talons. Mm-hmm. And, that, of course, Dad, if you have an anecdote, if you want...
I was just going to sit here and chuckle.
Okay. So in Star Wars Wild Talents, it's the Ballad of Kevin Starchaser, and I'm basically...
Dan's running it.
Huh?
Dan's running it.
Yeah, Dan's running it. He's back. He's only available one day a week, so this is what he's chosen to do, is to run Star Wars.
Well, we all agreed, though.
Yeah, no, we're all complicit in it. And Kevin is...
complicit in it like it's a crime.
Yeah, Kevin... Some people think we're committing a crime against Star Wars, but,
I think we're improving upon it.
Yeah, Kevin is good at blasters and not much else. And that's kind of it. And so I don't even... Like, in the last session... We had captured some bad guys, and we killed the bounty hunters. We freed one of their captives, and then decided to turn the other guy in for money to the Sith.
The Sith, yeah.
Because hey, their money spends as good as anyone else's.
Making it rain.
And so we spend like 40 minutes talking about like whether we should do it or not. And when we show up, it's just like what was amazing. We show up on Coruscant, and there's like a fucking 100 stormtroopers outside, officers, and like Aaron's character apparently is a Mon Calamari, and they're fucking like shoot-on-sighters.
Well, it takes place in the Legacy era, which is like 150 years after Star Wars.
Okay, so whatever. Anyways,
things Ross cares about, not one of them.
Yeah, the idea is he can't show up. He can't just be like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Because they'll shoot him or arrest him or for whatever reason. So he has to hide out, but like. The Sith Lord, like, David blows his lie check. Like, you only got one of the two. We know that, okay, you killed the bounty hunters. Well, we don't care about that. But you're only turning one of the two captives. What happened to the other one? Oh, she got away. Well, like, wait, weren't you on a ship? How did that happen? Like,
Where'd she come from?
Yeah.
We're in space.
Yeah, where did she go? Like, anyways. Can we search your ship?
I'd rather you did. He didn't say no. Like, I'd rather you didn't.
Yeah, and that's the first thing. Is what the Sith is asking permission to search. Nah. And they're like, nah. And they're like, okay. And the Sith then uses his Sith fucking powers.
Space magic.
His brain fuckler power.
Yeah, he's brain fuckling. And he's like, you have a Mon Calamari in there. And that's the race of the one captive that's missing. Like, yeah, well then that guy's a male and the captive's a female. I was like, well, like, why doesn't the Sith go in there? Like, what blew my mind was Dan had recognized the bureaucracy of running the Empire would eventually even overwhelm the Sith. And the Sith could be like, yeah, I could kill those guys, but I have to fill out more paperwork. It's just not worth it. Fuck it. I want to go to Callahan's and get drunk, on space booze. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, fucking science fiction. You can't call like tobacco. It's tobacco. And booze is synthahol or whatever. I mean, like,
it's booze.
I just went on this whole rant of like, I'm just admiring how bureaucracy is more powerful than the Force. And that I thank Dan for running that. And then, what was your favorite? So I've been talking about it. Like, what was your favorite part of that? So,
well, of course, I know the story's been told, but I had a character in Star Wars who went to go gamble.
yeah. Well, in Matt's game, you were really good, and the mechanics for that were really broken. So you made lots and lots of money. I know that's been a previous. You weren't so lucky this time, though.
No, I wasn't. I didn't lose a lot, but
Yeah.
I was down.
Yeah,
And it actually made a lot more. It was a lot more like actual gambling.
yeah. So that was pretty awesome. And I yelled at Dan to name things for my amusement. What's the name of that space station, Dad? And he came up with a good name for it right on the spot. And then, what's the name of that cocktail?
And Aaron
waitress, Dad?
wanted to stay on the ship to avoid plot.
God damn it, Aaron. Fucking Aaron. Like, no, we need to leave now.
We're doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've got a kill order on all of me again.
Yeah, exactly. And what it came down to is, like, in 2 hours, I rolled, like, one roll to seduce a bar wench or a cocktail waitress. That was it. And
David played music at a bar.
David played music, and now he has to play for 4 nights to pay off the debt to the Hutts that he somehow incurred. And now we know the guy we did turn in, his buddies are coming to kill us. And so we just tell the Hutt security team, like, yeah, these guys are coming to kill us.
So you're calling the police?
Yeah, basically. It'll all work out. We'll find out next session, whenever that is. But the whole thing, like, it was great because we just argued with each other all the time, and like we spent half the time
like a
doing
good team would.
Yeah, like
like in a
it's
good
like
way,
Seinfeld in space. Dan didn't have to do anything; he just had to show up and say Star Wars, and we just bitch at each other.
Like we are a mildly dysfunctional family in space.
It's really what happens with any group of nerds.
Yeah.
Just say Star Wars at them. Something bad will happen.
God damn it, fucking Star Wars. So fucking prequels. Ugh. So that was a game that will be on the ransom for the next Kickstarter or in the preview
It is
episode.
so wonderful.
It is, and you will love it. So, Thad, you are the guest, and you're going to be leaving soon.
Yeah.
So do you have any final words for our listeners?
I
mean, they'll still be hearing you over the actual plays.
yeah, like the
long time.
The ghost of me will continue to haunt your hard drive.
Yeah,
for
basically.
many a moon.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been nice hanging out with you guys.
Like you're gonna stop.
I'll miss you also.
You'll be back.
Yeah, I will.
All right, so...
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So they're probably, hopefully, by the time you get back, you'll be. We haven't run out of your episodes, and we'll be able to post them even more. So
Excellent.
I realized by the time you get back, we'll be just about ready for Gen Con 2013.
yeah.
Like I don't know when I'll be back. I can't make any promises.
All
Yes,
right.
you can.
Yes, make promises. Make promises for our listeners now.
All right, yeah, I'll be at Gen Con. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I'll break that promise and blame Ross somehow. It'll
God
be
damn
fine.
it. All right, yeah, I am a monster.
Yeah,
So
Ross don't give a fuck.
He makes us say these things.
you shut up now. Don't tell anybody.
Ross is a brain fuckler.
You really like saying that.
I really do.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully your brain has been fuckled enough with this episode. So this has been RPPR episode 76, GM with 1,000 plot hooks, and we'll see you guys next time.
Brain fuckler.